Hi guys, I hope you are well. You are live today on the Talkwoods, and you'll either be on my channel, which is a Nat Rich channel, or you're going to be on the I Am Sound channel. But today I am joined with three friends of mine, one very new friend, one not so new friend, and one old friend. So I'm going to introduce them all for you. But just to give you a rough idea, today's show is going to be all around getting wasted, or whether we're wasting our time, and what the difference is between back in the raving days as to now, and what's that doing for our mental health. So we're going to go deep into Talkwoods. There's going to be some old stories. There's going to be some stuff that we have done before that we may have shared before on a dance floor, but not usually publicly. So we're going to go in on that, so you won't feel alone. And if you want to make any comments at all, just drop them in and I will do my best to reply to them whilst I'm hosting. But I'm not great at this, producing a show as I am talking, but I'm going to give it a go. So first of all, we are going to start with the oldest friend out of you guys, which is actually Joel, because you're all pretty new. But Joel, I've known you the longest. I know, right?
I know. Wow. Right. Yeah, we're pretty new friends as well. We're only like under a year. Yeah, a year and a bit. I was about to say.
Yeah.
obviously, the Corona year was a year to kind of not even count. Now, was it 2020? But
exactly.
So, yeah.
It's a bit of a shit year, wasn't it? Really? It's more like a year in the house. But I met Joel. Joel was offering up vegan conversations. No, we were at the bar, weren't we? We were at the bar in ministry, when the workspace, co-working space, and we ended up having a chat. And I can't remember how we began to talk. Can you?
I do actually. I actually use this anecdote when I'm talking to people a lot, when I'm actually talking about how wonderful Nat Rich is, because I said that of people that I've met recently, where normally there is some kind of strange interjection to the conversation. This was one of those occasions where actually I was sat next to somebody who had a dog, and I kept on looking at this man's dog, and then you just arrived out of nowhere and said to the man, "I'm going to walk your dog because I need to do 10,000 steps today." And it looked like the man didn't know who you were. I didn't know who you were, but you were adamant that you were walking the dog. And then he was like, "Sure." And then when you walked away with the dog, I was like to him, "Do you know her?" And he was like, "I think I've seen her around." And then I was just like, I think I like her.
Yeah, you know what? Our dog stealing it. I just needed to walk when I was working at ministry because I sat down for too long. So it was like the dog was an opportunity for me to get outside. And I am a dog stealer, just so you know.
Yeah, but exactly. That moment was just though, I think, again, laughter aside, it was a moment though of kind of a little bit of a risk take and that kind of human connection. I think you just enveloped quite a few different things that I look for in the people of my life that I collect, and you kind of embodied them all in one flail swoop. So by the time you came back from your dog walk, if you remember, I was ready to talk. I was like, "Tell me more." And then from there we started talking, and now we're here.
Indeed, we are. We've talked about veganism, which is something you're really passionate about, and you are, you're very articulate with what you say, and you come across with some good stuff and some good ideas. And I thought, why not have you on talking about getting wasted, because I think you can do it well. Not just getting wasted, but I think you can talk about it well. And so I thought I'd add you to the group. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. Just one thing I want to say then quickly, based on what you said there, is I just want to open this whole conversation with a bit of a caveat, which is similar to when people talk about money, that you've got to say, in no way is this financial advice. Similar when we share stories or anecdotes here about intoxicants I may or may not have taken. This is not advice for people to go and do those things. Your life is at risk if you throw caution to the wind.
I need you on every show, because this is the kind of shit that I forget. This is the stuff, this disclaimer that I should have, but because anyway, we're going to have you saying that all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then we're going to Carl. So Carl, Joe's even sooner than you, Carl, more recent than you, but Carl was a month and a half ago, was it?
Yes.
It was. Yeah, you said that last night. And Carl reached out. I don't know how you found me, Carl. You have to actually tell me how you did that. Headliner.
Yeah.
Is that the podcasting thing?
No, yeah, no, not Headliner. Matchmaker, that's it. Yeah.
Matchmaker. We met on Matchmaker. It's not a dating app. It's not a dating app. It's a podcast.
Right.
I know it was. It's a podcasting platform, which is actually really good, and they're one of our partners for the shows. So thank you for mentioning that. So matchmaker.fm, they are on board with us, and they do a really good podcasting platform. So if anybody wants to get out there and get guests, you can do what Carl did. And Carl saw my profile, reached out, and then did a podcast with me. which was actually the reason why he's on is because I do 5 or 6 podcasts a week. I get interviewed all the time. There's loads of questions. Most of them are very similar because my stories is quite engaging, but they're always kind of the same thing. But you went in with some different conversations, and I was like, I like this one. He's coming along for the ride, and here we are.
Absolutely.
2 days in a row.
Absolutely. Second date.
I know, we're on our second date. Last night we got put to the test. Last night, if anybody watched the show yesterday, you will know that me and Carl were put under pressure. We had to play an intimacy game live on air, and our other co-host, Jamie Cato, he put us under pressure and said that we had to pretend that we were going on a date, and we had to say, I like you very much, I think we can go somewhere, and then you had to reveal a really dark part of yourself that you would never say on a first date. So we did that. We did 2 rounds of that, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely.
And here we are on a second date. It worked.
Absolutely. Round 3. Yeah.
Round 3. There you go. Tomorrow. I'll get you on tomorrow as well. So yeah, Carl's joining us, and he was on last night, and we're going to have him on again. I haven't booked you yet, but there are more shows for you to come on board, I am sure. And then we've also got Joanna Barber, who is 48 hours fresh into my life. I think it was 48 hours.
Brand new, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so Joanna was introduced to me by a mutual friend of ours called Abby, who I know is watching and listening. Hi, Abby, who's over in Ibiza from Sign Drink. And Abby. Yes, Sign, Abby.
Yeah.
See? Abby gets everywhere. So it's a real good connection, because tonight's subject obviously is not just about doing gear and getting wasted, it's about alcohol as well. And Joe's got a fabulous course. So do you want to introduce what it is you do, because I think it's amazing, and I'm excited to watch you for the next few weeks doing this.
Yes. Okay, so I'm a DJ agent, a personal trainer, a nutrition advisor, and on the 4th of Jan I just launched a course called the 6-0 experiment, and it's 60 days without drugs and alcohol to see what magic can happen in your life, basically. We've got 45 people on it. It's a community, so we've got like a Slack channel where everyone is just amazing. We're all connecting, and the magic on there is incredible. But it's just full of personal development, lots of activities that we're doing, lots of group calls, basically supporting each other through the next 60 days. And it's not necessarily if you've like hit rock bottom and you're like a hardcore addict. It's just if you're acknowledging that it's just got a bit out of hand, because that's what happened to me. And I caught myself, and I've now got this like amazing balance in my life where, yes, I go and have my fun, and yes, I enjoy myself. But the majority of the time I'm sober and happy, and I live like, I'm just happy every day, which is something that I didn't experience for a long time because I was using drugs and alcohol to mask the unhappiness. So yes, we've got 45 people on this course, and they're all absolute legends. And they're literally, I've cried this week about 10 times. I've done like loads of little excited like bum wiggles and dances, like, oh my God, it's amazing. Yeah. And it's better than I ever thought it would be. And we're all just helping each other, and we're all ravers. Like DJs have got involved. We've got like Sam Divine on board, Chris Lake, GW Harrison, who else we've got? Jess Bays, Mikey Teller from Pillar Talk, like lots of different people that have maybe had issues or just want to have a go at being sober and see what can happen. So everybody's of like everybody's somebody that you'd meet on a dance floor. So we're all just getting on like a really, it's just amazing. So yeah. So that's happening for the next 60 days. Well, I can talk about it forever, so shut me up, please.
Well, I did bring you on a talk show, so you can get away with it. It's fine.
Yeah, but still.
I'm going to monitor this with Joe. I'm going to keep bringing you back to keep talking to you every couple of weeks and see how you do, because I think it's going to be good progress.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the proof is in the pudding. Let's see who gets to the end of the 60 days. But I have faith in my guys, and everyone gets a certificate at the end of it. I mean, who doesn't want a certificate?
Absolutely.
I need a certificate. I know when you could have a certificate. When I gave up my actually, I'll segue into that actually. So the reason why I wanted to do this show, obviously it's important to a lot of people out there, drinking, taking drugs. We're not here to judge. every single one of us on this call has partied hard, let's just say, in the best ways. That we've all got great memories, but we are all aware that there is a balance. There is there's the music and then there's the silence, and what we're in now globally is the silent period. And what is coming up for a lot of people is difficult because a lot of people haven't taken time off like they have now. So a lot of us aren't ready to face those things that we may have been avoiding when we were out raving and when we were going off and doing our partying. And we even joked about it just before we got on air. And actually I'm going to go in at the deep end, because one of the things, I think, it's not that I was, shall we say, fully addicted to alcohol. It was that I was using it as a way to suppress my feelings in more than I should have done. And I wasn't necessarily addicted because when I stopped, it was quite a firm stop. But what I was addicted to was ketamine. And it was pretty dark, and I went through some significant periods. I lost quite a few days of my life in Ibiza, in a K-hole, and just can't remember what the hell happened. And it was pretty dark, and I just thought to myself, is this normal? And I came back from a season in Ibiza with a glowing tan but a grey face, and I was just it just didn't match. It just didn't work for me. And it was hard. It was because I used to take care, and then I had no problems with my bills. I had no problems with anything else. My mind would just come out of my shit life back then and into a space where I could just chill out. And that's when it became addictive, because I was having more of a satisfactory experience on ketamine than I was off it. So the benefit to taking it was to mask the feelings, which is the benefit to taking most things. And it was a really troublesome time because it took me a while I couldn't really tell people either that I was addicted, because all my friends were taking it way more than me. So if I admitted I was addicted, it was as like, to them, they were like, well, no, that means I've got a problem. And it was hard because I didn't want to signal anyone out. So it was very much a lonely journey. But I wanted to, talk about this openly today and ask you guys to talk about some of I want to kind of hear the funniest nights and the worst nights from all of you. So Joe, because you've got so much enthusiasm, I'm going to ask you for your top night and the twists and the tails. Keep it short, but we want to know the highlights, and I want to know the darkest times. So the highs and the lows of your experience.
Okay. Oh God, there's so many funny stories. But I don't know whether high, I remember a time I was in Space in Ibiza, and oh my God, it was our last night, and I'd run out of money, but somehow my friend got me in. And then when I got in there, I was just like, well, I just want to get really fucked. And they were like, I was like, I'm going to triple drop. And everyone was like, do not do that. And I was like, why? It's my last night. I just had a Burger King. Like, I couldn't be any more prepared for this. So I did. And then my friend, about 2 hours later, there I am sitting in the tube up at Space, rocking backwards and forwards, talking to a wizard. I don't think there was a wizard there. So that was fun. That's one that springs to memory. And then obviously I had to get taken home, and obviously like the fallout from that, I just felt horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to like dark times, I live in Berlin, so we like partying hard is just what people do here. The clubs got open on a Saturday or even a Friday, and they close on a Monday, and that's just what you do. Like, I've been out and just been so ill. I've just been like, I should have gone home hours ago, and I'm still like, no, I'm gonna push on through, and getting home, and then being like, oh, what else have we got here? And then going to bed and just crying for hours, and just being like, where has my light gone? Like, the only time I feel like lit up is when I'm on a dance floor taking drugs, and I don't have any other joy in my life apart from this. And that's kind of when I knew it was going to be a problem. But anyway, we were supposed to do the dark straight away, so I just went straight from light to dark. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Nice, fine.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want to bring it down, but anyway.
No, we'll go high, low, high, like a frequency. Don't worry about it. It's
okay. Great.
So
next, someone else.
God, I was going to say, before I move on to anyone else, can you say that your friends, because this is a really important part, I think, of anybody's journey, can you say that your friends noticed that you had any kind of problem, or that you were struggling with not that you were, there in a really bad way, but did anybody ever have that conversation with you, like maybe you're taking too much, or were they all doing it too?
Pretty much. I mean, live in Berlin, like everyone's a partier. Like everybody that I've met is basically into partying. I'm an agent for DJs. It's not only my social life, it's my professional life as well. So no, but also I probably wasn't letting on like quite how much I was doing. It was normalized, go out Wednesday night, go out Thursday night, go out Friday night, go out Saturday night. What else am I going to do when I go out? Drink and take drugs. Like, that's what you do. So it was like, if I'm out, and I wasn't the sort of person that would get on it at home, so I'd go out quite a lot. It wasn't like I was doing it on my own. So every time I'd go out, I call it like ritualistic and habitual drug taking. It was just part of my night. It's part of my ritual on a night out to go make a call, get some stuff in. Like, it was just part of it. So no, it's just because it was just how it is. Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody that's listening is going to be like, yeah, I kind of get that. It seems to be the normal way, in a strange way. Carl, I'm bouncing straight over to you. The highs and the lows.
All right. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I would say that I didn't go out that much in terms of drinking and having a good time, because I was like a dad at 18. So, you know, that kind of almost spawned my habit actually of drinking. Not so much being a father, but just the responsibilities that came with it and everything else that was going on in my life. So in terms of, I can't really think of the funniest moment, but the one that stands out, if I'm being honest, would probably be I was in Manchester with my cousin, and we're staying at my friend's, and we went to a club, got a bit wasted, brought one or two friends home that we met at the club, and all I heard is a bit of, shall I say, commotion in the next door. So I left what I was doing and I went to see what was going on. And the lady that was with my cousin went to see the friend that I was with and to speak. And then I went into my friend's room and he was just kind of sitting there like this. And I was like, bruv, what have you done? What have you done? And it was like, bro. So the ladies came out. She's like, Carl, I'm so sorry. I've got to go. I'll call you, but I've got to go. I've got to take my friend home. And I was like, okay, cool. So they left. And I looked at my friend again and said, bruv, what have you done? And it was like, bro, she was 14. Yeah, she was 14. Ooh. Yeah, I think
that was a twist in the story I was not expecting.
Oh, no, really?
I thought this was going. Not where I thought this was going.
Yeah, it was a mad one. The thing is, we could laugh about it, like even when, you know, me and him go over the story, because nothing happened, thankfully. But it was just, obviously, it easily could have.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it easily could have. Like, literally, obviously, this was a weekend, and obviously, just the thought of, yesterday, she was in a school uniform type thing, you know, and obviously, she's in like an adult club, you know, and to be fair, she looked like a young adult, you know. But yeah, it was a mad one. Very lucky escape. It was a very lucky escape for him. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
But that was a bit of an eye opener for me, actually, and for him, I'm sure. But in terms of lows,
that sounds like a low.
That was the high.
That was the high.
Yeah, well, I think that was more of a low for him. Yeah, it's gonna get lower than that.
Go for it. We're going in. I love it.
Yeah, that was probably his low, I guess. But my awakening, but he's low. I would say probably one of my lows was when I called a counselor once, and this actually wasn't that long ago. Now I'm coming to think about it. I called a counselor, and this is vulnerability at its peak right now. And I was just going through it, and I just didn't. There was nobody I could think of that I wanted to call. You know, brother, sister, mum, you know, partner, friends. I just didn't want anyone to tell me what they think I wanted to hear. So I just didn't want that biased opinion. So I spoke to someone, and it was to speak about my son, who had at that time just been excluded from school from an incident that he got involved in. And I was just this is my oldest son. He's 16 now. And he was struggling. I'm struggling with my relationship with him. I'm drinking a lot at this point. So as soon as I'm getting back from work, I'm stopping off at Sainsbury's. I'm getting my rum. I'm getting my this. I'm getting my that. And I'm closing the curtains. And that's me. Yeah. And that was 2020. So that had happened. And when I called this lady to speak about my son and that relationship, within 10 minutes of this conversation, she asked me, tell me about the relationship with your dad. And if I'm being honest, that fucked me up for weeks.
Oh.
Just spending about 40 minutes speaking about this man that I haven't seen since I was like 12, and spoken to, I think, twice since then, not in my adult life anyway. And in my head, and I didn't say this to her, but one of my last memories of my dad is actually him coming in, and I'm sitting in the living room, and he comes into the living room, doesn't say anything to me, and goes straight into the cabinet, gets to the bottle of whiskey, empties it in the cap, takes a quick shot, empties another cap, takes a quick shot, and then walks out, and then just does whatever he's doing, and didn't say a word to me. And I remember I was excited to see him come in, you know, and yeah, like then I used to think my dad works all the time. That's why his eyes are always red. And it's only till I'm speaking about it to this lady when I'm thinking, I wonder if that's where I got it from. And you know, even subconsciously, you know, I just gravitate towards it whenever there's an issue because I just want to, as you said, numb myself, you know, from that abandonment, you know, type issue, I guess, or insecurity. So yeah, I think that would be all.
No, that was enough. More than enough. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you know what? I know people who will be watching this will have some kind of, you know, reflection in that story, and they'll be feeling it. So, and this is why I'm doing the Talkwards, because no one's got a story that doesn't need to be heard. Everyone's got something to share. And that's a powerful space that you sit and tell that. So thank you for that.
Thank you for creating the safe space for that.
No problem at all. I'm hoping this is going to do people at home the world of good, so they can realize that they are not on their own. And yeah, it gets deeper. So go on, Joel. Highs and lows.
Well, again, similar to what I did at the top of the show with a kind of caveat, I just kind of want to widen the conversation a little bit before I go in, just about the fact that we're talking specifically at the moment, I suppose, about like maybe like alcohol and drugs, but I think it's just that reminder that addiction is a mindset rather than any particular substance or thing. It's about finding a distraction to stop you having to have the conversations with yourself or having or saying those tough things you want to say. And so, I mean, to quote, like, you know, one of my favorite rap songs, like the Unholy Trinity freestyle, the guy says in the song that everything's a drug, stocks and planes, lots of things, pussy's a drug, a 500 Benz is a drug, everything is a drug, because it's how you choose to interact with something is what makes it become a drug. And so I think that, like, I would say that although I have been party to a lot of substances in my life, I think they were only catalysts to my real addiction, which is approval or other people. Like, and I would contend that a lot of people, the reason why you get into alcohol, cigarettes when you're like at school was to be part of the cool group or to get to go to the club with these friends, and ultimately if those other people weren't involved, I'm sure for most people, at least for me, when I drank alcohol for the first time, in fact, for the first 10 times, in fact, my whole alcohol drinking career, I don't like it. Like, I don't like the taste of it or anything, but it keeps you in the group with everybody. Like, you know, your friends go, beers. You're not going to be the one who goes, nah, like, you know, I don't want to be part of the group. So you drink the beer anyway, even though it's this horrible brown liquid that comes from wheat. Like, but we drink it and we get on with it.
Yeah.
And we do these things because we want to remain, we want to belong. We want to stay in the group, because also by belonging and remaining in that group, that also means that we don't have to talk to ourselves, because we've got a whole load of people around us to talk to now instead. And so I just kind of I know that a lot of people, because I tried writing a novel when I was at university. I got to about 55,000 words of it, but then the novel was called Addicts Anonymous. And it was about a group of friends who were all addicted to different things, because I just recognized it was part of my life. and the life of my friends around me. But it was that nuance that people, and again, a commercial and capitalist society likes to point towards the things that people are addicted to, rather than turning the lens on itself and looking at how these processes have made all of us addicts in different ways. Because, like, you know, whether or not, I mean, addictions or an addictive mindset is probably not good. But someone would say that my addiction to CrossFit is good for me, but where your addiction to beer is not good for you. But I would contend that the mindset of addiction is still, you know, detrimental to both people, even though your CrossFit addiction might kind of give you physical results that we in the world would smile at. But I still think that we're, like, you know, you're looking at the same thing. So I just kind of wanted to say that before I kind of go in, because I think that what you will notice in the stories that I will share is, although I did do a lot of, like, you know, I think my high story, for example, is when I was in Leeds. I went to university in Leeds, and I bought a bar when I was still a student, and then opened a bar in Leeds. This was all back in the early 2000s. People who, like, were there, they'll remember. Others who got the T-shirt will probably be burying their heads in shame. But I remember one night we'd gone to a place in Leeds. It's called Glass House, and we'd gone, like, partying all night. We were out, and then when we left in the morning, I was basically so kind of stimulated high, like, I think it was like ecstasy or MDMA, that I was just like, to the group of people who left with me, I was like, fuck it, who wants to get in a car? I'm paying for everyone to go to Ibiza. And I did that, basically. Didn't think about how we were getting back, didn't bring anything. I literally got in a cab, like, you know, a Majestics cab in Leeds from Glass House, went to each of these people's houses, picked up their passport, straight to the airport, paid for everybody's tickets to go, boom. The come down started when I was on the plane, basically, and I was like, what the fuck have I done? Like, basically, had a really important meeting. Back in the day? We had a really important meeting with the bank on that Tuesday. It was the bank holiday weekend in August. I remember that now. I had a really important meeting on the Tuesday because I was opening my bar that November. And it was the meeting with HSBC, who were basically giving the money, and I had to be there. But I'd now flown to Ibiza, and then there was no return flights until Wednesday or Thursday. So I was now going to miss this important meeting. And again, I arrived in Ibiza with this, like, ragtag group of people who just said yeah, and we had nowhere to stay. Everything basically started just disintegrating and falling apart, like pretty much straight away. I mean, the upshot of it is, by the time that we did end up leaving, we had to fly back to a different airport. We'd flown out from Manchester Airport in the end, but we had to fly back into Gatwick and then had to get a National Express back up to Leeds. So it was just one of those. It's one of those moments where it just kind of reminds you that you're not in your, like, you know, your best frame of mind. But if you've grown up, like, watching films like, I don't know, like Richie Rich, DuckTales, Disney, in these kind of, like, drugged up moments, you're like, yes, I can, like, you know, I can do whatever, and it's just gonna work. If I do this, the logistics just are not part of the narrative in that moment. All you're thinking of is the pure unbridled hedonism. Like, yes, like, we're leaving here, guys. In a couple of hours, we're going to be in DC-10. But as I said, it never worked like that, basically. And there are a number of, like, things that came from the aftermath of that. Not least the fact that I kind of had to make up the most ridiculous, like, you know, lie excuse to the bank as to why I couldn't make it, and obviously had to depend on them not calling me and hearing an international dial code and thinking, like, this guy doesn't take any of this stuff seriously, which at the time I really didn't. Like, and, like, you know, in retrospect, I would have taken it more seriously. But I mean, I think the takeaway for me from that story was, sure, the drugs were getting me high, but the reason why I did that was, again, it was my addiction to people. I was trying to be cool in front of these people and, like, yeah, let's do this. I'm that cool guy you could. And so when I look back on the story anecdotally now, it is funny. And obviously I know that I probably wouldn't have done it if, like, you know, I hadn't, like, you know, done MDMA or ecstasy or whichever of those kind of, like, you know, spiritual uppers that it was that I'd done in the club that night. But my takeaway is the fact that what I did, the behavior was actually driven by something that that overrides even that ecstasy. That wanting to, like, you know, be cool, to do something that looks like it's from the movies, was ultimately what my addiction was in that moment. So again, I don't know whether that story is like is a higher or a lower. It's a kind of like a,
it's a combination of both.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cocktail.
It is a bit of a cocktail.
No pun intended.
No,
Exactly.
I love that. So true. And it's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, we've all had some kind of like crazy moment, but I've been around a lot with guys that do stuff like that have taken people I know. I used to work in the West End in London. You'd see a lot of ballers coming out being like, oh yeah, we're going here with the money, and off they go to different locations, and we're talking like random, like, oh, let's get your passports and go. So it isn't, you're not alone on that one, but I've just never luckily been invited on one of those trips. I feel a bit gutted now, but no, I appreciate your highs and lows. I'm going to share my high and low. My high was when I was in Ibiza, and I kept going out on holidays. I used to do the openings and the closings before I lived there and before I did a season there. And I used to also, I'm not scared to admit, I used to sell a lot of drugs. So it wasn't my proudest time, but I was very good at it. And I used to basically know everyone. As soon as I'd be out there, I had my little pink bikini on. That was kind of the thing. Everybody saw my pink bikini and they knew it was me that was texting them. I'd clean up basically, and I'd make loads of money. I remember sat there on one day and I just made loads of money. I was sat with myself thinking, oh, you know, this is really good. What could get better than this? And then this really hot guy came and like slid himself by me and start chatting. And I'm like, obviously, you know, thanks God, what can get better than this? And then I met someone else that came and sat at the other side of this guy that I was talking to. And it was Gary that owned Scintillate. So I don't know if any of you guys know Scintillate, the club nights.
Gary Sewell.
Yeah, Gary. So he came and sat next to me on the other side. And he said to me, what are you doing for the absolutely shit face, by the way? I double dropped. I was also selling and everything was just like out of it. And I was having this great experience. And it was the connections, you know, obviously being on Bora Bora, everyone connecting. It's that vibe. It's that beautiful feeling where you're just like, yeah, life's sweet. And I had everything that I needed. And he slid down next to me and said, what are you doing for the rest of the summer? And I'm like, don't know why. I said, because I worked at Amica at the time. I was working at Amica, a nightclub. I used to run that nightclub in Chelsea. And I said, I don't know, I'm going back to Amica, but I'm not really that happy there. And he said, do you want to do a season? He said, I want to give you a job for the whole summer. And I'm like, and I just sat there and it was like, I was as high as I could get. And it just set, and I'd just been dumped by my boyfriend a couple of months before. So for me, it was just like season in Ibiza. I sat with a hot guy, got loads of money, got a job offer. You know, what could get better than this? Obviously the season was amazing, but it was that was a high moment for me where I'm like, yes, I love drinking, I love going out, I love clubbing. So it cemented it in me to basically just be, you know, in alignment with going out all the time, because that's when the good things happened. It was more fun going out than it was staying in. So I got addicted to those magical moments, and it took my life in another direction. Didn't realize I was going to come home with a ketamine addiction, but hey ho. But one of the lows of my life was actually during that season. And similar to you, Joel, when you're talking about it, as most people know, I've given up drugs, alcohol, social media, gave up sex for 3 years, given up a number of other things. But one of the biggest things that underlined all of those was my addiction to attention and drama, which I didn't know I had. And all of that, the attention and the drama addiction, fueled every one of those. It was a nightmare for all of them, but it was the last thing I really gave up and realized that was the bit that stuck them all together, because it was my lack of love, and I thought I needed to fill these holes in different places. But so my need for attention, I went out, and does anybody know Swankies in London? So it was like Swankies parties. It was the guys, they used to do all these like parties where everybody go and dress in their underwear basically to these parties, and models all over London and like really hot guys, and everyone's dressed next to nothing. Obviously I go in like next to nothing. I'm in this fancy dress out. It's not really fancy dress. I would have worn it normally, but everybody's like more than very short, put it that way. And I go to one of the events out there, and Katie Price was out there, aka Jordan, and it was the week that she broke up and had a major bust up with her partner at the time, Peter Andre. And she'd come over to the island, and all the press had followed her, like all of the press. And she was filming for her show. And her it was like a story of her life or whatever it was, which she used to do. And we were in Boho, which was a club that was open for a year and then it closed down very briefly. It was like 2009. And we're in there, and when I say like I'm absolutely shit-faced, I mean I am way more than I should have been doing. Like, this was before I'd even taken any drugs. This is just me and alcohol are not friends. I get absolutely wasted. And all I remember at the beginning of this night is I saw her and she recognized me because I used to run the clubs in London. So I knew a lot of celebrities back then and footballers. And obviously I used to work on the doors as well. So I wasn't an unseen face, shall we say. So she saw me and she recognized me and she came over and she put her hand here and she wiped it all day down my face. And she grabbed me by the throat and she basically told me that she wanted to fuck me at the villa. And I'm like, I haven't spoken to her. I don't know what villa she's talking about. She's wasted. And I'm like, oh my God. And as I turn around, there's people taking videos and pictures of this moment, right? Can't remember anything after that, apart from I go home with a guy, and which I saw him a few months later. That's a whole other story, which I won't go into. But I go home with this guy. I don't really know who he is. We get home. I wake up in the morning. I've got love bites around my neck. I don't even know why I call love bites. There's just no love in that scenario whatsoever. So I have all these love bites around my neck, and I wake up and my friend's like, Nat, like, what did you do? And I'm like, I can't, I don't know. I just remember, I can't remember. And she was just like, all right, yeah. And she just walked out and she was going to work, ticketing or something. So I'm like, oh, that was a shit night. I can't really believe I had that one. I felt dreadful. Anyway, I had to be at work. I had to go meet Gary from Scintillate. And Spoonie, DJ Spoonie, do you know him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Spoonie as well.
Yeah, so Spoonie and Gary they were basically running these events that I was working for, and they called a meeting, and I wasn't really sure why. So I rock up to this meeting and I'm thinking, don't know why, it's really early. It's a bit too early for my liking because I'm obviously hungover. And they're spewing, they're like not happy with me whatsoever. And they're like, how could you do this? I can't believe it. Because I'm supposed to be in Ibiza promoting their nights on a Sunday night, which was Scintillate night. This was a Saturday night I was out. I didn't know. But Spoonie put this paper in front of me, and it was back then, was it News of the World? I think it was the Sun. And it was page 3 of the Sun. There's a picture of me. You could still get it up now if you Googled it. But there's a picture of me with Katie Price. And she's got less on than I have, let's say. And her vagina's pretty much hanging out of her little pants that she's got on. And I'm there and we look like we're dancing together. So I'm like, oh, that's what happened.
What have I got to type in on Google? Sorry.
Yeah. You can put Katie Price, Ibiza, Boho, and it'll come up. So I'm sure you can go and do that. But there's this image of me and her, and we look like we're raving. So anyway, because we kind of raving, but we look a little bit more intimate than that. So that's one thing. I'm thinking, oh God, this is so embarrassing. So as I'm walking around and we're like, they're angry. They're saying they're not happy because I should have been promoting their night, not this night. And it's giving it all the press. Looks like the night to be at. Then I ring my dad, and my dad's like, you're in the Daily Mail. And I'm like, oh God, what? And I'm like, oh my God. Then I'm getting Facebook's popping, phones popping. I mean, all these different papers. They decide to run with this image and use this image for almost 6 weeks, because this is the image for where she's broken up with Peter Andre. And this image is everywhere. And I'm just like, oh, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And then I'm thinking, this should have been a reason to stop drinking. This was like every part of my life. Everyone knew what was going on. And they were just like, all thought it was funny. I was mortified because I'm like, this is not what I want. I was then getting calls from the Daily Star, from the Sun. Somebody somehow had linked us up. They were offering me money to sell stories because they wanted me to sell stories at the time. They were offering me literally just under £100,000 to sell a story because it was the top news story because she was breaking up with Peter Andre. And I turned this money down because I'm like, I could never live that down. It's like, I can't believe that's going to happen. No way. And then it literally, for me, I was like, can't really get much worse than this. So I'm kind of brushing it under the carpet. And then she goes on Loose Women, and they bring up the video and the footage of us. And she's like there saying, oh yeah, she's wearing less than me. Look at her. She's worse than me, like slagging me off on TV. Then she goes on to Piers Morgan, and he does the Piers Morgan, this is your life type thing, whatever it is. She's there talking about my outfit. And I'm just looking, thinking, the entire nation's watching this Katie Price documentary, and there's me, she's comparing herself to me, and I was just absolutely ashamed of my behavior, and that was my high. But still, even after all that, I didn't realize my addiction to attention. Didn't even, it was all over. And there was a part of me that really enjoyed the attention, which I would never have admitted because I was mortified, but at the same time everybody knew me and I didn't want to look, but there was this negative part of me that wanted the story. And when I really woke up to being addicted to attention, I went back through that story and I was like, oh my God, like attention is the basis of every addiction that I've had. The need to be loved, the need to be seen, the need to be felt, seen, heard, and all that. And I was so shocked because nobody had ever said that to me, that attention was anything to do with anything at all. Have any of you guys had the attention? Obviously, I know, Joel, you mentioned it, but Carl and Joe, do you think attention plays a role in any of your drinking or any of your drug taking?
After you, Joe.
No, for me, it came from a very different place. Like I started taking drugs when I was like 20, but I'd been diagnosed with clinical depression. So it was my total escapism. Like when I discovered drugs, I was in a really bad place mentally, and I was also a very lonely child. So I get maybe attention, but it was more like the same way you were saying, Joel. Like I'd found, like when I started taking drugs, I found like my tribe, like the people like I could hang out with, the people I felt comfortable with. And I was like, yes. And not only did I feel comfortable, like all my anxiety disappeared. I could chat shit to anybody. Like it was just like, I was funny, I was popular, like I was hanging around with the cool kids. And also the drugs made me feel fucking amazing. Like I was just like, yes, I feel so good. Obviously everything that goes up comes down again, but at the time I just didn't care. Like, and that's the way I spent, the next 15 years. So maybe a bit of attention, but actually it was just a sense of belonging that I was lacking in my life, and that's what led me to carry on.
Yeah. And do you miss that now? Like obviously I know we're in a pandemic scenario. Probably not a fair question to ask really, because it's a bit different, but do you miss that belonging, or are you finding it in other places in your life now?
Well, definitely finding other places. I'm so much happier with myself. Like I've had lots of therapy, I've done like lots of self-work, I've still working on myself. Like I'm really happy with who I am. Like my cup is full, like totally full. And so not really. I also have like amazing friends who get me, who understand me, and they're not necessarily all on the same journey as me, but they totally respect the journey that I'm on, and that's amazing. I have a wonderful husband who is fully supportive, even though he's not necessarily on the same journey. So no, like I don't miss it. Yeah, I mean, I still do go out every now and again, and go for like have rave before the pandemic. In fact, I went once last year because of the pandemic. But no, I don't know, not really. And yeah, I think just finding the happiness within myself meant I wasn't looking for these other people for validation that I belonged. Like I belong to me, and I belong in my life, and that's enough. So yeah.
Cool. What about you, Carl?
Attention. Well, I think attention is always a factor. I think the moment you're conceived, your attention is on something, and our lives are navigated by whatever it is that we're giving our attention to. Even in the quantum world, they kind of determine now that everything that we're connected to is shifted just by our attention to it, just by our awareness that we give to it. And whatever we give our attention to expands. So I think, in terms of me, being excessive in whatever it is, and kind of like what Joel was saying earlier, addiction obviously doesn't stop or start with certain substances. Abusing certain substances it literally could be just abusing over a reoccurring thought that keeps going on way too long, that you end up identifying with. So from time anything you're focused on and expanding, and you end up drinking, it's only gonna, I feel, perpetuate this insecurity that you have and make you identify with it. my attention on the wrong things has definitely put me on the wrong path, and even having my attention on the right things can definitely put me on the wrong path once I've become addicted to the result of attaining it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I definitely think, you know, attention is everything, if I'm being honest, you know, because I can't remember exactly what the saying is, but it's something like us as beings, Homo sapiens, whatever you want to call us, we need proof to realize that certain truths exist, but the truth doesn't need any proof for its existence.
Totally.
You know, to remain. So it's just that constant battle of trying to find oneself, and it's if your attention is on the wrong thing, then we have to be conscious enough, aware enough to recognize these things that we are addicted to, regardless of what it is. Because ultimately, I think whatever it is that we're addicted to, even if it's CrossFit, you know, running, marathon, or whatever it is, it's just the knowing that if this thing is stripped from you, will you feel some kind of emotional pain or discomfort? You know, that's really going to show, you know, and that could be like a power thing, you know, if you feel like someone's disrespected you, a security thing, oh my gosh, he's going to leave me, what am I going to do? You know, it's all these type of, all these are addictions, you know, all these addictions. So yeah, that's why it's important, I think, even for our young people to help them fixate their attention on the right things, you know, but also not to be addicted to the result of whatever it is that they're striving for. So and I definitely think Joanna's particular course, which I would love to go on, by the way, that workshop for the next 60 days, whenever that's going to be.
Yeah, join us. It's full of magic already, and we're only on day 5. And yeah, please join us.
Yeah, I think it's a reoccurring theme to kind of like just take each day, you know, as it comes, and you hear it all the time, especially now, you know, just this new age of awakening, just like, you know, just be in the moment, be present. And, you know, bigger than that is literally just like, just don't get addicted to the result, you know, just stay focused on the journey. Because if you focus on the peak of Everest, the sight alone is going to deter you. But if you could just focus on that step, you know, and then the next step and the next step, and, you know, I think that has to be more the mission, to kind of have the attention on the now and not the, you know,
no, it makes sense.
The painful past.
Yeah, that makes sense. So someone sent me a message and they've asked me, and I want to chuck it out to you, Joel, if that's all right. Sure. He said, can you please explain to me why there's a separation made between alcohol and other drugs? Where does that come from, do you think? Alcohol is still one of the narcotics that kills most people. Obviously, yes, there's medical drugs and sugar and stuff, but it's just a thought kind of to take us on a different path, what you might think, or why do you think it's okay really for alcohol, and, you know, that's the one that kills the most?
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, my kind of thoughts on what I've just kind of been hearing kind of was already like pulling my mind back to this idea that I mentioned before of kind of consumerism and capitalism, and that we live in a world that ultimately, as much as we're here having this conversation in a safe space, bringing these things to the fore, being able to have this conversation with each other, like the silent hand of society pushes everybody to addiction, no matter what it is. I think at the moment, for example, what I'm seeing being billed in a fun way, but as an addiction, is the new PlayStation 5. Like people do memes of like, you know, would you swap your parents for a PlayStation 5? Or my girlfriend got me only the PlayStation 4, so you see the dude's shown throwing it out the window because he didn't get the PS5. And again, people go, oh, it's all in the spirit of jest. It's all funny. It's all part of marketing. But I'm like, do you not see, again, to what Calder said, it's just that step by step moving everybody to an addictive mindset for everything. Yeah. People are addicted to like pizza. People are addicted to glasses of white wine, things that social media or things that, like, you know, the zeitgeist picks up for a moment and like makes into today's cool thing that we all have to be, again, addicted to. And this is so funny that although addiction is actually, like, you know, like all humans, we are flawed beings. All of us have addictions of different kinds. But the way that addiction has now been like normalized, if it means that we can uphold capitalism Like, you know, that's fine. Your addiction to wanting to buy a PS5 or to keep on flying out to Dubai for 5 holidays a year or any of those things are fine because you're helping the market with your addiction. But if your addiction, like, you know, that leads you to be on the street and you're not part of, like, you know, the economic ecosystem anymore, then your addictions are frowned upon. Yeah. And so similarly, that point about alcohol there as well is, you're right. Like I said, I've never actually enjoyed alcohol. I used to be. I'm a barman. I've got a recipe in the source guide. Like, you know, I've owned a bar. I'm a licensee. I've been drinking it, but I've never actually liked it. But I've always known that, like, to be part of many of the social circles that I wanted to be in my life, including like when you're working in business development, for example, and you've got to go for drinks with the boss of this company, or there's just so many things in this life that have had alcohol built in as a function. Like, or as a feature of it. Like, you know, you'd like to think that alcohol was like, you know, was the sunroof of a car, but alcohol has become literally the wheels of our car. That, like, we can't have society without alcohol. You can't, like, you know, like cheer someone without the drink being a real drink. And again, we watch films and stuff which also just normalize people when they're having a downtime moment or a moment of thought, a moment of reflection. All of our favorite films, favorite programs, even cartoons will show a cartoon character, like, you know, but they will always be like, I'm going to have a little drink. And so it kind of normalizes this idea so that by the time you're old, you're like, well, maybe this is the thing to have. Maybe the same way I have plants in my house, I have to have like a decanter, or I have to have a bottle on the shelf, and you start to think it's just part of life. And so I would say that, like, you know, that the gentleman's point is correct, that because alcohol, like, you know, is currently, like, you know, I mean, alcohol is a thing, it's not a brand, but if you look at the brands that are in alcohol, companies like Diageo, like Anheuser-Busch, and these companies, they're massive international multinational companies which are headquartered in, like, America and Europe. This is all part of, like, you know, a Western canon to keep these businesses at the forefront. It's not lost on me that, like, you know, the things that we call intoxicants, or the things that have been decided are bad drugs, come from places where the people are different than the people where alcohol, which kills far more than cannabis, and in fact all of the next list of things that are called drugs or scheduled drugs, alcohol singularly kills more than all of them combined. But like, you know, all of those will continue to be frowned upon, even when some of those others have now even been shown. For example, cannabis has been shown to have so many medicinal purposes. Cannabis historically has always been like a plant of medicine in India, in Africa, and other parts of the world. Hemp is, I mean, our bodies have an endocannabinoid system because we have grown synonymous with, like, the hemp plant throughout our human existence. But yet that story is cut and it's just made into this, like, scary, wacky-backy story that you're going to become schizophrenic and stab the neighbors if you consume cannabis, because ultimately the value chains of some of these other products or these other things that are seen as intoxicants, the end point of those value chains isn't in Europe or isn't in America. And so there is a problem with where that goes. And so, to the gentleman's point, I would say that, like, you know, alcohol has just become a normalized drug when actually I would say it is the most dangerous. And for me as well, I mean, although I can't plead like 100% sober, I mean, I had again, quite a funny anecdote. My wife and I, we both stopped drinking quite a while now. So on New Year's, we thought we'd have a bottle of Prosecco, just, like, you know, just have a little cheers. But one bottle of Prosecco took us, 3.5 hours, and I had to dilute it with Capella, like, and then it still knocked me out for the whole of New Year's Day. So this kind of shows, though, how far I've come, because before I could go and drink like a bottle of Woodford Reserve in a night by myself, like on top of obviously having like shots, bit like the wine with the dinner, and like all these other like drinks that kind of have all these names that make it seem like it's cool and part of being cultured, like a digestive, an aperitif, like I'm gonna have like a nightcap, and all these fancy names that make it all sound, oh, I'm so cultured doing this. But no, you're not. This is like giving cultured names to the different times that you shoot up over the course of a day. Like it's still another point at which you are inebriating yourself with said poison, and fancy names can't hide that.
Well said. I think we've got a few comments saying well said. I love it when you go off on on a roll. Go.
Yeah, went off on one there.
Sorry, I jumped to the question. No, but this is the passion behind what you're saying, and we're all agreeing. We all resonate. We do live in a society that is built in a way that doesn't design. It's not enabling us to thrive. And this is when people always say that this society that we live in is broken. It's not broken. It was never built for us to thrive in. It works perfectly for some individuals, usually hanging around at the top. And to go into any conspiracy, this is just, you see it in every industry and everywhere you go. We are fed, literally spoon fed, everything about convenience, and we buy into that convenience, and we are the ones that build this system and make it the way it is, because we're the ones that are buying into it every day. So this is when you say, oh, let's blame the bankers, let's blame this. We can blame them, but I know blame has never got me anywhere on my healing journey. And Joe, you said that you've done a number of things about self-work. We can't be blaming people when we're in these situations. We have to take responsibility. And if we choose to keep buying into alcohol, and we choose to keep calling our dealer because he's a really nice guy when he comes around and he's a good guy, like, that's a choice we're making on a regular basis that can take us in either that direction or that direction. So it's where does the line get drawn? Whether is it Facebook that's the problem, or is it the fact that the way that we use it, we know it's built in an addictive way and in a way that doesn't help us, but we know that. So why don't we come off? Same with Instagram, same with WhatsApp. So, like, I've come off of all of these platforms. WhatsApp, I'll be coming off at the weekend because it's taken me about a week to let everyone know I'm finally coming off it. But I'm moving to Telegram because I don't like the terms of service for WhatsApp. But it has been addictive for me in the past because that's where the attention comes through, and I want to see who's messaging me. And we choose this path every single moment, in every single hour of every single day. We make these choices and we do it, and we build up the system and we keep it going. So it depends how much you're willing to take personal responsibility, I think, for every addiction that you've got. And they say, when you go to like a 12-step program, you can't be helped unless you want to help yourself first. And that's a really hard thing to admit, because then you have to admit that you may have a problem. And having a problem is not a problem, ironically enough. It's something that you can get through. But it's the admitting. Have any of you guys found it hard to admit, or have you find it relatively easy to accept and to want to change? Obviously, the change isn't easy, but in terms of the accepting process, has it been difficult for any of you lot?
I think for
I
me,
found it
I'll go. You go, Joanna.
Go on, you go.
Joanna.
Oh, thank you.
I was. Yeah, go for it. we got time lag here, haven't we? We had a time.
You go. 100% you. 100% you. 100%
Joel, you go, and then we go to Joanna.
Well, I suppose again, just to kind of almost like tail on to what I was saying before, and also what you just mentioned there, is that there is a recognition that, like, as a society, convenience has evolved quicker than we have as humans, and in that, it means that, like, I mean, again, I even look at myself now as a parent, like, I have a 2-year-old daughter. Quite far behind you, Carl, at the moment. But
You got time, man. You got time.
Yeah. But what I recognize now, though, as well, is that, like, my parents and parents of the generation before this kind of, like, the explosion of convenience, which I would say probably happened in the 80s and onwards, as the industrialization, like, kind of became digitalized, and people were like, plastic products in particular, were made at mass, and every single, like, value proposition of every new business was, how can we make the life even easier. What isn't recognized is that many of the skills, or many of the, in essence, even the values that my parents and parents of a generation before had, and were able to instill on me to be the person I am today, like, I have kind of, like, lost them, like muscle memory, like, because, like, we don't have to go through the similar hardships as our parents did, whether or not it comes down to lugging heavy stuff back from the shop, where now we can use an Uber, or not even leave the house and click and collect, or whether or not it's down to, like, the fact that, again, like, in our house, we have, like, and again, like, I'm not boasting or anything, we have a 4K TV, but I'm thinking to myself, the quality with which my daughter now gets to watch Disney Plus, again, like, as a concept, I can't even imagine as a kid having a 4K screen to watch everything that Disney's ever made at my fingertips when I want. we had one old pirate like VHS of The Lion King, which we got to like watch maybe like once every 2 months, basically. And you couldn't even hear what they were saying. And I was like, is that a lion? Is that that was the extent of it? But it meant when Christmas came round or when something came round and the films were on TV or your friend lends you the video, it was really exciting and you looked forward to that day. And it was like now, like, you know, just on a random Tuesday, just because it's raining outside, a kid has more excitement at their fingertips than I had probably within, like, you know, a year of my childhood. And now again, when I say that, I don't mean this in because I enjoyed what I mean is like with regards to the resources. Obviously, I enjoyed, like, you know, reading books, like climbing the tree, playing with, like, you know, a stone in place of a football because you didn't have a ball, or wrapping up lots of socks until it becomes a ball. But again, all of these things that we talk about now, these, like, you look at a kid, they look at you blankly, like, you did what? Like, I've got FIFA on my PS5, like, and so I think that also just like largely speaks to how we have become weak, and I say that with myself in it. We have all become weakened. Again, even like how our immune systems, with our, like, you know, so much antibiotics in the world, that we've all started to become like immune to them because we're so coddled as people now because of what convenience has done. The point I'm making with all of this is that in been able to say to myself that, like, you know what, as much as I obviously love convenience, you have to teach yourself to not like it. You have to teach yourself to go like, no, I need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah. I need to, like, you know, I need to sometimes be a bit cold. I mean, for example, I intermittent fast. I only eat in an 8-hour window, but every single day as it comes to the end of my window, I'm reminded what it feels like to actually be, like, you know, a bit hungry, like, rather than just like whenever I want, I can just get what I want whenever I want. And it's these little things, just like, because we are literally avalanching down a mountain to our own self-destruction, where none of us are even going to have the agency to be part of a revolution. Because what, we're going to do a revolution from our remote controls on our Roku boxes.
Exactly right. So it's so true and so well put. I do it again. I love it when you go on one. It's brilliant. Thank you. Joanna, go for it.
I don't even know where to go from there, to be honest. That was a great little monologue. What were we talking about? What were you saying before, like, about acceptance? Oh, did it? Was it hard for me to accept? Oh, incredibly hard for me to accept that things had become a problem and that things had got out of control, and to accept. So, for example, I moved to Berlin, and I was like, yeah, I'm moving there because London's too expensive, and, you know, I really need to get away, and I just, you know, need to go get out of London. It's just too hectic. And, you know, after a couple of years of living here, I was like, no, I just came here so I could rave and take drugs, like, and to facilitate that. And it was accepting that, and so I didn't have to go to work on a Monday morning and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, and the realization that the things that I've done over my life, like, oh yeah, I did that just so I could do more of what I thought was fun, and then to turn around and then accept that and just be like, and sit with it and be okay with it, and understand that, like, it's all right to make a mistake and not be heartbroken over the choices that I've made. Like, really, really hard to accept. But I do think a lot of that clarity has come from moving away from it, holding a space for myself, you know, just rather than like keep on going, trying to accept it while you're still doing it. And rather just accepting that's what I am and that's what I do, accepting that isn't what I want to be, that isn't what I want to do, and there's better for me. So yeah, definitely found it difficult to accept stuff.
Good, nice honesty there. And I'm guessing most people at home will also be thinking about whether they're addicted to anything, or if they have been, what they can do about it. And it's a challenge to have that conversation with yourself. It's not an easy thing to do because it requires absolute honesty, and most of us have lived in absolute bullshit for a long time with our, you know, our own creation, and we don't even know we're lying. Say that again.
Yeah, I was saying, using drugs and alcohol to cover up the fact, so you don't have to listen. So the voice isn't even there, so you can't listen to yourself. Just like, oh no, just like put it over there and not listen to it. Just numb it all out and send it all away.
Yeah, exactly. Carl, did you have anything to add to this?
In terms of acceptance?
Yeah, just in terms of acceptance, is it something you've realized?
Yeah, the Matrix is real, man. It's not just a movie. You know, I think, you know, there has been this big social construct that's been created for us, and kind of like what you said in the opening, but I think because one thing that even Lawrence Fishburne, whatever his name was, Morpheus, he said that the Matrix only works through the consent of the people, even if they're only aware of it on the subconscious level, you know? So it's like, yes, we do have the choice, but we feel like we're consciously choosing. We don't realize that our choices, like you said, are being manipulated through just like a color of a button that says buy, you know? Why else would people, you know, I guess, camp outside of Apple for the new upgrade, you know, type thing. So when you have like children screaming at their mum, thinking they're going to become faster if they buy these Nike pair of trainers because they've seen Ronaldo, you know, advertising it. It's like, it's not so much of a lie, it's more of an illusion. Because if everyone believes in an illusion, it becomes the truth, right? Surely, you know, that becomes your reality. So in terms of just accepting it, it is tough. It is something we need to kind of sit with, and we do often need to look outside of the realms of our own thinking. If I think Einstein said it, you know, if we're consciously put ourselves in this kind of predicament, whatever predicament we find ourselves in, we can't get ourselves out of it with the same consciousness that got us in it. Exactly. You know? So there has to be some kind of one other thing I was wanting to say actually is this psychoanalytical thing of free association. I think Sigmund Freud spun the coin or the term of this, where he'll get his clients to lay on the sofa, you know, this common thing you see in the movies or whatever, when the client is lying on the sofa and they're just talking about their feelings, so on and so forth, and they wouldn't be looking at each other. And one of the reasons he said he started doing that is because he knew that inadvertently, through no choice of his own, the client or the patient might say something, and due to some unconscious facial expression as in a response to what they've said, they might then become reserved, again, through no choice of their own, based on someone else's expression on what they're saying, which would no longer create that safe space for them to freely express themselves. So they'd have to almost stare into space and become comfortable in that internal space to, you know, which is, again, it's manipulating, but at the same time, it's manipulating for their own benefit, if that makes sense. And kind of going to what Joe was saying, we are getting often manipulated where it's not to our benefit, it's to someone's benefiting from it, you know, but it's not us, you know. We can only really start benefiting until, you know, we start joining these programs that what Joanna's doing, where you're not going to be able to last that 60 days until you become comfortable in your own skin without a supplementation, you know, of something that's going to pull you outside of yourself. You know, you need to, you know, allow yourself to be still for that moment, you know, because the water only heals once it stops moving, you know. And if you're going to be standing in the middle of that swimming pool, the only way to get that to stop moving is once you stop moving. And only then will you, you know, start to actually see yourself and receive the benefits of stillness, I would say.
Yeah, I love that.
Nat,
Joe, did you
Nat, I have a question. I have a question for you, I suppose, flipping it on head, and even actually a little segue from what Carla just said. And that was actually quite poignant that you mentioned Sigmund Freud, because I was thinking about Freud before, because he developed the whole field of psychoanalysis on cocaine, because cocaine at that time was not yet a scheduled drug, and it was just something that you could take and it kind of just freed your mind up and you could do more work. And so, yeah, my flip side question is, like, we're kind of talking about, as I said, like, you know, the substances, the things as the drugs, as opposed to addiction, and these things plug into an addiction framework. And so I suppose I wanted to ask you, do you think there is an upside to some of the drugs and things we're talking about, like ketamine, like cocaine, like alcohol? Can they be used in a way that actually can be for good? Can we be productive, or can we create the communities or break out of the manipulations we're talking about with some of these substances?
Okay, good question. Great question. I'm just very mindful. By the way, if my screen goes dark, it will flash back. I don't know what's happening, but I am here. So if you can hear my voice, just follow the words. Follow the words. Follow the words. Close your eyes. Sit back. No. So I do. You know, some of the best times of my life, and I'm not endorsing drugs and alcohol. It's entirely your bag. You want to do it, go for it. It's nothing to do with us, and I'm not taking any responsibility on this show for anybody's decisions. You are making your own choices, and I will make that a fact. I personally have had some enlightening experiences when I've taken drugs that have got me, when I've not taken alcohol, when I've taken drugs, I've taken ecstasy, or I've taken ketamine, or I've taken mushrooms, or not even really think mushroom drugs, it's stuff that you grow. But anyway, there's a whole set of drugs out there that I've taken and gone into a space within myself where I felt truly at one. Cocaine doesn't take me there, I'll be honest. Doesn't, makes me a bit of hell, and I can talk anyway. It's more of an ego drug. But I'd rather be in a room full of people who have taken pills than a room full of people who have taken coke, because the frequency from the people when they've taken pills is one of love. Yes, it's chemically induced in some way, but you're more likely to hug someone than you are to punch someone. And there's a different space that you go into, and it's a different level of perception and an awareness that you go into. You go so high, which is a state we're not used to living in because of our environment. And then when, like Joe said earlier, what goes up must come down. Then you go down and you feel into the depths. And that can teach you to feel, even if you don't like the feeling, it can teach you to feel when you're in that low and then that kind of hangover where you're like, oh God, you know those feelings so well because they're there and they're present and they want to be felt and seen. So it can help you become aware of your feelings, high and low. But there are studies out there, large studies, using small amounts of ketamine for mental health reasons. There's studies out there using small amounts of MDMA. I think Joe's just left us. I don't know what we're... bless her, she'll come back, I think, in a minute. There's lots of studies out there using all sorts of drugs to see if it can help us tune in to a better space within ourselves. Because the one thing drugs can do, whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's MDMA, whether it's whatever it is that they open the mind to an area that we don't necessarily naturally tap into because of the environments that we've been in, because we never knew that they existed. So they can... There she's add to the stream. There she's back again, coming back somehow. But the don't worry, we won't be on too long anyway. If you get bored, you can leave if you want. But the idea is that there are some incredible opportunities for you to feel different parts of yourself, and those different parts of yourself can transform you and your awareness, and they can open you up. So you're available to conversations, you're available to go deeper with friends, you're more intimate, you're more relaxed, you're more calm. Do you want to stay in those states? Because you'll always come down. I'd rather get there naturally. I'd rather learn how to get there naturally. And it's through a number of different things. But we can't always get there until we really know that we have to give something up. And most of us aren't willing to give anything up in order to try what we can get naturally, because it's scary, because that's when your emotions come in, and that's when your vulnerabilities come in, and that's when your weaknesses, or what you appear to think that you have weaknesses, come in. And that is like soldier territory. And we're not all soldiers at the moment because we're scared of that.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, we as a society, we've moved further and further away from, as I said, what convenience has done from us, where there was even the ability for us to maybe switch into soldier mode. I don't think many people even have, they're so far now from soldier mode that it would slap them in the face and they wouldn't recognize it if that hit them. Like we no longer have that. As we know, we live in a society where as well, a lot of the admonishers of drugs, and again, this whole conversation, I mean, there is a parallel conversation to have, I think, which you touched on when mentioning that when you're talking about mushrooms and cannabis, it's just so strange that things that grow from the ground, we call these drugs, but yet we don't refer to, as we said, alcohol or chocolate bars or fizzy drinks or processed food. Yeah. Those are far more drugs than the hemp plant, which grows to full harvest in 12 weeks with no pesticide, or mushrooms, which is kind of can grow in dog poo or can grow in bacteria. Those are part of nature's gift to itself. Whereas refined plastics and refined sugars, these are the drugs. So I mean that is a whole next conversation. But I mean again,
not now, but
exactly.
I have, obviously, with the Talkwords, I want to cover as many subjects as possible. I've agreed to go toe to toe with Boris. As long as he's going on with his shitty lockdown, I'm going to keep going on with a live show every night. Anything else. But some of the conversations, we're going to go deep. I've got friends. This is the whole point of the Talkwoods, is that I'm very comfortable with having awkward conversations, which most of you will obviously now see. But the understanding for me is that I have a massive faith in humanity, more than most people do, because I've seen people in my own life and in my own network, and I've been gifted with the grace of these people, and I have seen absolute game changers. I've seen people that would blow your mind, and the depth of their stories and their efforts and their work. Not everybody gets to see people like that. I've traveled far and wide, and what I wanted to do was put all of my network, you guys included, bringing them into one space, so people can also resonate and have the same level of faith in humanity that I've got, because I know we can change the situation. I know we can change the narrative. I know we can literally change the channel. We can tune into something else. We can deal with the problems that we really do have that are ours, not government problems, not society problems, personal responsibility problems that a lot of us have, dealing with that together in a collective way where we can set challenges every week. So I have a whole game plan for the whole year, but I won't go into that too much yet. But it's a game plan for the year, and it's challenges that you can do at home that will make you realize that you're not here on your own. You have so much ultimate power that you're just not tapped into. And there are so many people out there that are here for you. And by doing this together, we can change the narrative that we're living in, and we can go in a different direction. But it takes souls like yourself, Joanna, who are doing something and thinking, shit, I've got power. Let me see who else I can help. Because when you help someone else, you can change so many things for yourself, but you have an effect. Like she's got 45 people in your group.
Yeah. And they're helping me. Like, they're healing me.
Exactly.
Like, they've changed me in the last week. So yeah. And they're changing each other as well,
Yeah. And that's just because you had an idea, Joanna, and you dared to believe in your idea, because you've come out of a space of drinking and taking loads of drugs, and you've got clarity, and you thought you've got a little bit of confidence, and you're like, do you know what? I'm going to do this with other people. And that's changed the lives of 45 people. And that's just one person. And you didn't even plan for that last year. You're like, maybe it's an idea, maybe it's not. And now it's cemented itself, and you're changing the lives of 45 people because you dared to believe in yourself. And that's what giving up alcohol gives you. Giving up drugs gives you that clarity, gives you that level of peace, gives you that level of confidence, and it makes you go, fuck, we've got power, but we just need to get out of our own way and wake the fuck up. And that's what I want to do with the Talkwoods, is to have these conversations, get you guys on, and show people that we have everything we need. We already have everything. And on that note, on my own rant as well, I've picked it up from Joel. But I want to thank you so much. We have loads more coming. As I said, tomorrow we've got Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. We're talking about differences between that might slightly change, but I don't think it will. It might slightly change. Day after, we've got Sound and Silence, what the importance is between, we're now in the silence. This period is one fucked up period, and it's quiet for a reason, because great things come out of the silence when you're willing to go into it. We then have gangs, a conversation about gangs on Monday, and got a guy, I believe that might be on Monday, from Sierra Leone, who was kidnapped when he was younger, and he was forced to be a child soldier. And he is now a musician, an incredible musician, but the journey that he's been on, I want to share. I want to put that out there. I want to, get people to connect, because it's quite a harrowing story. And then we've got stuff about prison life as well, because I've got a few dodgy friends that are coming on air to talk about their experiences of life after prison. So I hope you've all enjoyed it, and that you've had fun having a Talkwoods. It was not that awkward, is it?
No,
not at all.
It was fun.
General conversation, but people cringe at this stuff. They're like, oh, what's it going to be about? But it's just our truth.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to make us do it naked or something.
Do you know what? That'll come. Wait till we do it
next time, please, guys. Next time.
Yeah.
Right.
I was about to say, we'll get Wim Hof for that one, and we can do it in our ice bucket.
Indeed. Well, there is, just to let you guys know as well, I keep saying it at the afterwards, please subscribe to this channel. I would love it if you subscribed. I'm trying to increase my YouTube subscribers, so whether it's on my channel or this channel, if you can subscribe, that would make me very happy. If you can like and share this video, I would love you even more than I already do. And if you want to reach out to any of these guys, information's in the discussion box below on YouTube. Download, if you have a phone, which I know you do because you're 99% addicted to it, can you go to your app store and can you download our app? We have an app in the app store, and it's called I Am Sound, and it looks like that tiny little one there. If you can see, there you go.
Oh, pretty one.
It's also up there. It's also up there.
Also up there. Yeah, this is it. I Am Sound Radio. So you'll be able to get music that's in there. We've got a whole 24/7 radio station, and then the TV station is coming at the end of the month. It will be available on all smart TVs. You'll be able to get I Am Sound TV channel, which I'm going global just to stamp it out there.
Amazing.
More. Yay. So yeah, thank you again. And Carl, haven't booked you in yet, but you are coming back. I want you to come and talk about Who's Your Daddy, because that's a really good show that I want to do. I think that'll be good for you. Yeah, Joel, we've got you for.
I'm on Who's Your Daddy. I'm on Who's Your Daddy as well.
You're on Who's Your Daddy as well. There you go.
Yeah.
Johanna, I don't know when you're going back, but I need you back to do the process of the story. We want to hear all about you and see how this is going, because you're doing something amazing. I'm so proud of you.
No, thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
And for anyone else, send us a message, lean out to us if you want to. If you've got any ideas for Talkwards, I'm toe to toe with Boris. Let me know. I have plenty of days spare. And if you want to come on air and you want to share something, you want to be vulnerable, you think you can talk about absolutely anything, regardless of the rabbit hole, come on air. Let me know. I'll be happy to have you. And for the rest of you, thank you very much. Love you all and good night. And we'll see you tomorrow at 7.